Okay, so welcome to Lesson 2, Unit 6, where we will investigate lists. For our warm-up, I want you to think, what are some similarities and differences between lists and variables? How does a list manage complexity in a program? And one thing that you'll need to submit, since this is a virtual lesson, is a list of these questions answered. So I would create a document and I would title it as Lesson 2, and then I would put prompt response, and then I would answer these two questions. So pause the video here so that you can answer those. So some similarities and differences between variables and lists. Some similarities include that both are used to store information, right? But they're different in that lists can store multiple items, but variables can only store one item. One similarity is that when written in JavaScript, both start with the keyword var. And one difference is that when you're making a list, you have to use square brackets, but when you're making just a regular variable, you can use parentheses. So those are just some similarities and differences, but for managing complexity, you don't need to know how a list is created in order to use it. All you need is the name of a list. There is a separation between the abstract properties of the data type list and the concrete details of its representation. And so that's one way that a list manages complexity. Also, programs that use lists are easier to read and manage. Separate variables are not needed for each individual element. So that's another way that a list manages complexity in a program. So we're going to watch this video real quick. Part 4, getting the length of a list.
One of the benefits of lists is that their length can grow and shrink over the course of a program. But that means it can be useful to find the length of a list at a given point in time. You can get the length for a list like this: numList.length. When your program runs, the computer will replace this with the current length of the list. In this case, the length of the list is 6. A potential point of confusion is that even though the length of the list is 6, the last index is 5. This is because we start the indexing at 0. Because lists change size, a common issue in programming with lists is, what's the index of the last element? We typically find out using the expression list.length -1, and you frequently see it used to access the last element of the list like this: numList, and in square brackets, numList.length -1. Lists are a very powerful way to store and maintain data in programs. They open a door for us to write programs that use and process lots and lots of information, especially when we don't know ahead of time just how much information needs to be stored. Let's try them out.
So what you're going to do, you cannot find a partner, all right? So you're going to be taking this on by yourself. You're going to pick one of these apps, either Outfit Picker or Band Namer. Read the program, make sure that you understand what is happening. If you don't understand what's happening, copy the text from the program and ask ChatGPT to explain what's happening, okay? Then respond to all of the questions for your app. All right, where are these questions? I believe they should be on whichever screen that you choose. So it's either going to be level 1 or level 2, because we do not have an activity guide for this lesson. Okay, so the questions should be on either level 1 or level 2. All right, and then you're going to type those responses on the document that you're going to submit to Schoology. So spend You're not explaining it. Okay, so pause the video here so that you can go do this, okay? Now that you have completed this part, all right, we are going to watch this video about assigning and updating a list.
You can also assign or update a particular index's value. You refer to the slot the same way. Names at index 0 gets the value Sarah would replace the current value at index 0, just like assigning a new value to a variable. Once you have created a list, you can modify it by adding items, removing items, or inserting items. To add an item to a list, you can use the append item function. Let's add Kelly to the end of the list of names like this. Append item names Kelly. Notice that append item is a function that accepts two parameters, the list name and the actual value that you want to add. Appending an item always adds the value to the end of the list. To remove an item, you use, wait for it, the remove item function. If we want to remove Josh from the list of names, we'd need to know the index where Josh is stored. So we could do this. Remove item names 1. When you remove items, the whole list shrinks and it closes the gap of the item that was removed. Now our list has 4 items indexed 0 through 3. Because the list shrank, items that come after the removal point are effectively re-indexed. So if we once knew that Kelly was stored at index 4, Kelly is now at index 3. This is not a problem, but something to be mindful of. We can also insert items into the middle of the list with insert item like this. Insert item names to Brooke. The insert item function needs 3 parameters: the name of the list, the index you want the new item to appear at, and the value to insert. Inserting an item grows the size of the list. Similar to remove item, the items in the list that come after the insertion point will be re-indexed. Because indexes are just numbers, you can put anything in between the square brackets that evaluates to a number, like variables or even arithmetic expressions. For example, let's say we're keeping track of temperature readings in a location with a variable called loc. var loc gets 3. We can change the value in numList at index loc like this. numList at loc gets 1.
All right, so what you'll do at this point, if you were in class, I want you to go to the level that has the Pair Maker app, okay? And I want you to read what is happening, okay? Investigate this app and answer the questions from that level on the document that you're going to turn in. So this is on level 3. So pause the video here so that you can go to level 3, investigate the app, answer the questions on the document that you'll turn in, and then come back to the video. Now that you have done this, all right, navigate to level 4 without a partner. Okay, read the code and run the app. What looks new? Okay, open the Data tab and investigate. How does it work? What information is available? What can you change? What can you not change? And then I want you to investigate a few different data sets. So answer these questions on the document that you're going to turn in, okay? For the data sets that you investigate that are different, tell me what those data sets are, and tell me what differences you noticed between the new data sets you looked at versus this original data set, okay? So pause the video here so you can do that, and then come back so we can continue. All right, now this is all about the Data tab in AppLab.
Hi, my name is Ariana, and I'm going to show you how to use the Data tab in AppLab. When viewing an AppLab project or an AppLab level, you might have noticed that there are 3 tabs: the Code tab, the Design tab, and the Data tab. When you click on the Data tab, you'll be taken to a data library where you can see different categories of data sets that you can use in building your programs and apps. You can click on a category to see the different data sets within that category. Click on a specific data set to see a little more information about that data set. When you click on more info, you'll be taken to a different page that tells you more about the source of the data, any cleaning up of the data that may have happened, and information about each column. You can also click this preview button to see what columns are included, as well as some of the data that's in your data set, so you can see if you're interested in using it. Click the X at the top right to return to the Data tab. Any of these data sets can be imported and used in any program or app that you're building. Before you can use a data set in your code, you'll first need to import it. Let's say I wanted to import a data set in the geography category, like this US states data set. When I click on the name, I have the option to import by clicking on this orange import button. Then I can click on the name on the right to preview. Now I can see all of the data in columns. Any of these columns in any of these data sets can turn into a list in your project's code. If I wanted to, I could make a separate list for every column here. Once I've imported, I'm ready to use the data in my code. I'll click back to data and then click over to the code tab. The first thing I'll do is create a new variable that will hold a list. I'll call it state names. Now, to get the data from the Data tab into this list, I'll go over to the Data drawer and pull out the Get Column command. Next, I select the name of the table I've imported. Now I can pick which column I want to use. I'm going to pick state names, but you can choose any of these down here. Because Get Column returns a list, meaning it gives you back a list, you don't need to create a separate list. Notice there are no brackets here. When I print out what's in this list, you'll see that we have a full list in the console log. Notice the bracket and all 50 state names in this list. Once you have this list in your program, you can use it just like any other list. So you can traverse over it, filter it, or anything you might do with another list. And this allows you to make really exciting, powerful, and interesting programs.
All right, so what I want you to do now is modify the code. Choose a data set and import it to your project, and make sure you write on the document you're going to turn in which data set you imported, okay? Then look at the code, investigate the data drawer in the toolbox, modify to print out a column of data from your chosen data set, and I want you to, on the document you're going to turn in, tell me which data set you chose to modify, and which column of data from that data set you chose to print out. You can take a screenshot of it printed out. The way she had the states printed out, you could take a screenshot of that, and you can put that image on your document if you would like. So pause the video here so that way you can do this, and then come back to the video. So before we wrap up, I want you to explain some other things to me on the document that you're going to turn in, okay? I want you, pretty much by the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe what information you see in the Data tab and how you can use the Data tab to help get access to data. Okay, so tell me what the data library is, where it is, okay? Tell me how to get a set of data. How can I look into that data to see what information is in there? All right. Tell me how to use the get column command and what the get column command will do. And then once you can do that, come back for the wrap up. So you're going to answer this on your document, what aspects of using lists do you feel you already understand? What questions do you want to dig into more during the lesson, the third lesson, which is the practice lesson? Okay, so what questions do you want to investigate more during that practice lesson? Answer these questions on the document that you're going to submit and then come back. We're not starting lesson 3 on here, so make sure that you complete the check for understanding in Schoology and let me know if you have any questions.